pocket, runs to the goal line. It's a touchdown.
Feed Elliott, coming right. He's going. Walked all the dogs. Touchdown, Cowboys. Starts up the middle. Now he pulls it back. Now he peels around left. Now he throws it in the end zone. Touchdown, Cowboys win.
America's team living up to their name. And Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott lead Pro Bowl voting ahead of Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, and Derek Carr. The rosters will be released on December 20th and are determined by the consensus votes of fans, players, and coaches. Each group's vote counts 1/3. Should Dak and Zeke be leading? Stephen A.
Hell no. That's right, I said it. Look, I appreciate what Dak and Zeke are doing.
Apparently
together.
not.
Well, listen. Zip it and listen. Okay?
I want to hear this.
Okay.
I want to hear who you have, please. Why should they not be leading?
I like Derek Carr. I like what I'm seeing from Derek Carr. Some of these comeback victories, the fact that they're 10-2, balling the way that they're balling, primarily feeding off their passing attack, although their offensive line is second only to the Dallas Cowboys in terms of efficiency and what they're able to bring to the table. What we cannot ignore is that Derek Carr is the leader of this team in every sense of the word. I mean, he's the spark plug. Him and Khalil Mack. We know Khalil Mack is the Mack daddy on defense. But you know what? They've had deficits that Derek Carr has had to bring them back from. And what he's been able to do on the offensive side of the ball has been extraordinary. Not that Latavius Murray hasn't shown up and assisted in that regard or anybody else in the backfield, but primarily it's been about their passing attack. It's been about the arm of Derek Carr. And when you look at what he brings to the table compared to Dak Prescott, listen, Derek Carr is completing about 65% of his passes. He's got over 3,300 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. You see what he's doing. And I look at him right now, and I'm just saying to myself, 513 yards passing against Tampa, 315 against Carolina, 260 last week. He's getting it done. And I look at the year that Oakland is having. I think about the Dallas Cowboys, and Zeke and Dak deserve so much credit. But we all, and even you, Max, if I recall correctly, was on the record talking about how this offensive line, you wish you could give the MVP to them because of the holes that they plug. We literally have watched NFL Countdown and NFL Live and other shows on this network and various others where there's literal footage of holes being opened by the Dallas Cowboys offensive line where running backs ain't even touched.
Right.
And I look at it from that perspective. And I say Dak Prescott deserves a lot of credit. Zeke deserves a lot of credit. But I view Derek Carr as more valuable than either of them.
It's more impressive because they have each other.
They have each other.
So in other words,
Derek Carr.
football's about interdependent parts. Okay, fine. The Cowboys have a great offensive line, the best in the business. Raiders have the second best offensive line in football. I think there's a consensus about that. I believe we all agree with that. It's a great offensive line. Who has better receiving weapons, Dak Prescott or Derek Carr?
Derek Carr.
He surely does, right? And that should help some of his passing numbers.
But. Well,
the other thing is
he has a better number two.
I'll let you go first.
If you want better, who's as good as Amari? Well, okay.
Well,
and Amari Cooper and Des Bryant.
You have Des Bryant,
Although he
Amari
hasn't had
Cooper,
him all
Michael
year. Okay,
Crabtree,
fine.
but I'm just saying.
Here's the problem. If you want to start pointing to statistics, then point to the best available ones. Is QBR perfect? No. But it's the best shorthand we have. And Dak Prescott is leading the league in QBR. And unlike Tom Brady, hasn't missed 4 games. So once you start pointing to stats, it's like having a baseball argument. Someone says, well, he has the most RBIs. Yeah, but his OPS is lower, and OPS is more important than RBIs. QBR is more important. Well, okay, but I'm starting there. It's more important than just kind of yards passed for, or even touchdowns through. Dak has a better QBR. Let me ask you this. We're not talking about MVP here. We're talking about Pro Bowl voting. And who deserves more votes? The quarterback with the better record on the best team in football with the highest QBR.
You don't know that.
Who also...
You don't know that about the Cowboys.
Well, right now they have the largest point differential. They have the best record. The evidence suggests so far that they are. And by the way, time was in this country, the glamour position in all sports was center field for the New York Yankees. And then at a certain point, it was center for the Los Angeles Lakers. But if you ask what is the heavyweight champion of the world, if you ask what is the glamour position in American sports, you would say quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. How many times was Tony Romo deserving of starting in the Pro Bowl? Like 0. But Dak Prescott, as a rookie, yes, with a great offensive line, yes, with other weapons that help him, including his running back, deserves the distinction, and it shouldn't be taken away from him just because he's a rookie. And Ezekiel Elliott, in this case, this is not an MVP vote, doesn't split the vote. He's the lead. He should go at running back. Dak should go at quarterback.
Who's more impressive of the two, though, in your opinion? Would you rather have Dak or Zeke in terms of this voting?
Dak, because of the responsibilities that come along with being a quarterback.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you, Max, is this. You have to understand, when I think about Dak and Zeke, I think about a combo, the cushion of having one another, combined with the offensive line. You know, Tony Romo was there a couple of years ago when DeMarco Murray was having a similar kind of year. Okay? So you've seen what can happen. The Raiders haven't had anybody like Derek Carr in a long, long time.
He also has no help on defense.
And he has no help on defense.
If we're talking about winning games,
getting a little more help.
He's getting a little more help now. Some would argue the same about the Cowboys. I've seen the Cowboys on several occasions exposed defensively this year, and we all know that Oakland has been exposed. You could sit up there and say that Oakland has better offensive weapons. Des Bryant's back. He's nothing to sneeze at. Jason Witten's a future Hall of Famer, and somehow, someway, no matter how big and slow he looks, the man is always open. My God, Jason Witten,
so
I just don't understand. He's always open, okay? Cole Beasley is nothing to sniff at. When you combine those three with the offensive line, with Ezekiel Elliott coming out of the backfield, that helps Dak. And I'm not taking anything away from Dak because I know that Dak is big time. And the numbers say it, his poise says it, the eye test says it, I get it. But when we think about Derek Carr and what this young brother brings to the table, I got to tell you right now, it's incredibly impressive, and I'm willing to go out on a limb and say this. If you asked me, that I would want both, because I believe in Dak Prescott and I believe he's going to be a star in this league. But if I had to pick between the two quarterbacks, I would want Derek Carr.
Well, listen,
I would want Derek
Carr.
Carr
Gives you the impression that he's more likely to have the game-winning play, and Dak gives you the impression he's more likely to not make the game-losing mistake. I understand that kind of
accurate point.
Right, proactive, terrible word, but it describes it here, stance toward Derek Carr. I get that, but if you're going to do the thought experiment where you kind of take away what helps Dak, including the O-line and Ezekiel Elliott, again, it's not an MVP vote, it's Pro Bowl, so they can both go with the lead, at their respective positions, Dak and Zeke. But if you're going to do that thought experiment, then I would also ask you to do this next thought experiment, okay? Just imagine that Dak wasn't a rookie, that he paid his dues in the league a couple of years already, and Derek Carr was. I'll bet you then you'd be pro-Dak ahead of Derek Carr. No. A lot of the resistance to Dak comes from the fact that people feel like he hasn't paid his dues yet, and he's benefiting from his offensive line.
I'm going to hurt your heart with what I'm about to say, but I really, really mean it. When I think about, you brought up Tom Brady when you thought about Dak Prescott.
Yes.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings here because I'm saying this in a complimentary way, not in an insulting way. You know who I think about when I think about Dak? Think about Alex Smith. I think about a guy who usually doesn't beat himself, won't make the mistakes, won't really, he's not a game manager, which is what I consider Alex. He's an upgrade from that. But I consider Derek Carr a proficient gunslinger when it counts. When I think about Derek Carr, I think about what I once said about Andrew Luck. I think about the John Elways. I think about the Dan Marinos. I think about the Big Ben Roethlisbergers, particularly when he was younger. I think about an Aaron Rodgers. That's how I view Derek Carr.
If you took Alex
When I think about Dak Prescott, I think about a guy who will not beat himself.
If you took Alex Smith,
mess it up for you.
If you took Alex Smith and made him a more inspirational leader and gave him a bigger arm and took a little bit of the running away, that might be the best player in football. I mean, and that's what Dak is as a rookie.
By the way, one other thing you didn't bring up. Do you realize that Latavius Murray has 553 yards rushing this year? He has one 100-yard game. The Oakland Raiders are all about their passing game. All about it.
All right, we got to
All
look
about
here.
it.
The big thing I noticed is Matt Ryan not in the conversation anymore. I know this is Pro Bowl voting, and we're talking about Tom Brady as much. It's Derek Carr, it's Dak, and it's Zeke
I
at this point.
appreciate you saying Matt Ryan. He no longer needs to be called Matty Ice. He's too talented.
That started at BC. That's not going to go away.
He's too talented. He's got to show up in a big moment.
Needs a defense.
All right.
So for the first time this year, we got our handed to us. I thought they kicked our. I don't think we had a lot of effort. I don't see the film. I'm sure there were some people that showed effort, but for the most part, we got our kicked. It's very troubling when you get your kicked. I thought we got our handed to them, so we're going to see what kind of pride we got this week. And I just know we got our kicked. It appeared that they kicked our physically. Obviously, when you get your kicked like this and handed to you, I don't care whether it's Monday night or Sunday morning, you don't want these kind of games to happen, and it's the first time this year it's happened. I'm angry when I physically get my kicked instead of something happening mentally to get your kicked. When you get your kicked physically, that's embarrassing. You don't see signs of getting your kicked, you just get a kick.
All right, that was Jets head coach Todd Bowles. Obviously, he's a friend of the show, Stephen A. But we got to ask, is it time for him to go?
No, I'm not going to go that far because he had a winning season last year. And as long as people like Jeff Fisher have a job with the tenure that he has, I'll be damned if I'm going to be calling for Todd Bowles' job after just 2 seasons. Having said all of that, the Jets, to say that they should be ashamed of themselves doesn't even begin to touch on what I saw last night. Darrelle Revis, it's over. There's no such thing as Revis Island. Matter of fact, the only island that exists is the one that Revis decides to stand on by himself, because I've never seen him play off receivers so much in my life. It was the softest coverage I've ever seen Darrelle Revis engage in. He seems to have lost all of his confidence, if not all interest. The rest of the team, I was tweeting last night, I couldn't believe how wide open receivers were. I mean, Andrew Luck stood back there, took pictures, called the family, said, "What's up?" Ordered dinner, the whole nine. I mean, and the receivers did the same daggone thing. I mean, they literally walked into the end zone. There were no defenders within yards of these receivers. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Matt Forte, I felt bad for him because on one particular play, he got squashed. The minute he touched the ball, the defender, nobody had blocked him. Not one single offensive lineman had blocked him. It was one of the most embarrassing moments I've ever seen in Jets history. It was worse than the butt fumble. It was worse than it's fumbling the snap by Joe Pasarcik, and ultimately I think it was our very own Herm Edwards that picked up the ball in the 80s and ran it into the end zone for the Eagles against the Giants. I'm saying
had to
Giants.
bring that up.
I was thinking the Giants. I was thinking the Giants instead of the Jets, but it was worse than that moment. This was tantamount to the Rich Kotite era. And all New Yorkers know how bad that era was for the New York Jets. For the owner to be in attendance, for the new administration to contemplate making Woody Johnson for the Jets an ambassador, for the vice president-elect Pence to be in attendance, watching this stuff right there. If you're Todd Bowles, you're McCagnon, the general manager, it had to be incredibly uncomfortable to witness and wonder about yourself. This is one of the worst performances I have ever seen by a football team. It was that bad, but I'm still going to say it's one game. This season has been bad. Ryan Fitzpatrick will not be there next year. And Todd Bowles really, really needs to consider, and McCagnon, they got to clean a little house here in order. But it was really bad. But he should not be fired.
Let me first answer the question, and I want to talk about it because I don't take it lightly. Bowles got to go. He's got to go because the team quit on him. I have never seen a nationally televised game, at least I can't think of offhand, in any sport, where you saw one team quit so blatantly, just not try. I didn't watch the second half. Did you watch the second half of that game?
I did, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't watch the second half of that game.
That was a
disgrace. Now,
I'm ashamed to admit that I actually watched it.
Every city with 2 franchises, or generally cities with 2 franchises, the major metropolitan areas, have the heritage team and the clown team. And one of the problems with New York is in basketball, that's the same team. The Knicks are both the heritage and the clown team. That's why New York basketball fans suffer the way they do. But the clown team can come up in the world a little bit, the Clippers in LA right now. But in LA, the Lakers are the heritage team. Clippers are always going to be the clown team in that town. I mean, they've never been to a conference finals, as you mentioned. It's just that's their brand. They can't escape that from a few years of good fortune and good play. And in New York in football, that is the story. The Giants are the heritage team, and the Jets are the clown team. And the reason they remain a clown team is because their owner has a dysfunctional franchise. So I want to get back to Bowles. I don't take it lightly given the percentage of players in the NFL who are African American versus the percentage of coaches who are African American. So when an African American coach gets a shot at being a head coach, I don't take it lightly saying, especially after a couple seasons and a half, oh, he needs to go. But in this case, even from, and I'm not saying Todd Bowles might never be a good head coach. He is with a dysfunctional franchise. I don't see it getting any better because the franchise is the problem. If he stays, even if he somehow magically does a better job, it's still the same situation. You're still the head coach of the New York Jets. So though what I said is true about minority representation in front offices and at the head coaching position, I think in this case, the team don't want to play for him. Obviously, that was a disgraceful performance, the kind that gets head coaches fired. And even from Bowles' point of view, if there is a successful head coach in there in the future, listen, Belichick didn't do well in Cleveland when he stopped there at first, then he deserves better than this franchise too. I think that performance said it's time to go.
Well, first of all, let's hold him accountable in certain respects. Ryan Fitzpatrick shouldn't have been in there. Now, I don't blame Ryan Fitzpatrick for everything the way everybody else does. He had a horrific game where he threw 6 interceptions in one game. But outside of that, even though he hasn't been impressive by any shot, the fact of the matter is he's been the easy scapegoat as far as I'm concerned. But if you're Todd Bowles, you've got to know you should not have this man in there. You should be thinking towards the future. Players clearly quit, but that shows their character more so than his. I think that you go off of last year, and I think that McCagnon obviously has got to get better personnel. You can't let your quarterback wait until the 11th hour and 59th minute to come into camp to be ready to quarterback this team. I think all of those things hurt him. I think there were things off the football field that hurt Todd Bowles this year as well, which is why I would give him going into next season. But this was a very, very bad moment. If I'm Woody Johnson, I would hold on to it to dear life in terms of judging him moving forward into next season. This had better not happen again. It was bad.